In a world where the young talent of America spends their spring break getting sunburned and destroying their livers, the best and brightest stay behind to do science.
Enzyme CoA participates in a number of biochemical reactions of vital importance.
No, not that kind of science. This kind of science. We're not just sitting around watching Star Trek and making up our own dragons. We're putting out problems posed from popular science fiction and figuring out how to use science to solve them. We already know that Duke students bleed blue, but why does Captain Marvel bleed blue?
So
Hemoglobin contains iron, which when oxygenated turns the blood red. However, there are many alternatives to hemoglobin, including hemocyanin, which is found in many crustaceans. Hemocyanin replaces the iron with copper, which turns blue when oxygenated, which creates blue blood. Hemocyanin is more effective in low oxygen areas, which might have been an adaptation for the Kree, who live in outer space or low oxygen planets. The only commercial source of hemocyanin right now is the giant keyhole limpet, so aquaculture has been used to effectively supply and produce this. Another organism well known for its blue blood is the horseshoe crab. Horseshoe crabs are right now used in the medical field for their unique immune responses. Instead of using white blood cells like humans do, horseshoe crabs use amoebocytes, which will detect endotoxins on the surfaces of pathogens and clot around them to immobilize them. This allows horseshoe crabs to effectively respond in 45 minutes instead of the usual 2 hours for humans, which could have allowed Carol to quickly adapt and heal herself after the crash.
Even if we were able to extract blue blood, how viable is blue blood transfusion? Xenotransfusion is a transference of blood across different species. Since blood cells are incompatible, however, there needs to be a way to make it so that our blood cells don't attack the incoming blood cells. So what happens is we try to camouflage these antigens and make it so that our blood cells don't recognize these as foreign blood cells. One method of transfusing blood is exchange transfusion, which means that all the blood that you have in your body is replaced by another source of blood. However, even if we were to have exchange transfusion come into play, that doesn't mean that your body's going to start making more blood on its own. So we need to target what creates blood in itself, which is bone marrow transfusion. In the movie, the main villain Yon-Rogg and Captain Marvel both share a histocompatibility complex, which means that each cell has the same proteins on the surface, which means that they won't recognize each other as foreign entities and will be able to coexist together. This means that they're able to form a bone marrow transplant. And how you do that is by taking bone marrow from the back of your pelvis, centrifuging that until it's a concentrated form, and then re-injecting it back to the areas that have bone marrow. And in essence, you're able to create Kree blood.
One of the risks associated with receiving a transplant is graft versus host disease, abbreviated as GVHD. GVHD occurs when the transplant launches an immune response against the host, attacking the host cells. One way to prevent GVHD is by using immunosuppressive drugs. Another risk associated with receiving a transplant is rejection of the transplant. One way to prevent this is by making sure that the donor and the receiver have similar MHC proteins, which act as a self-recognition system for immune cells. If the donor and the receiver have similar MHC proteins, the cells will be less likely to think that the transplant is foreign and therefore less likely to reject the transplant. Okay, so let's put it all together now. We know that animals with blue blood have high levels of hemocyanin in their blood, which contain copper. And when copper is exposed to oxygen, it turns blue, which results in the blue blood that we see. So to get that Kree blood into Captain Marvel, we would first do a xenotransfusion of that blue blood, and then a bone marrow transplant so that she can continue producing that blue Kree blood. And to make sure that her body doesn't reject the bone marrow transplant or the blue Kree blood, we would give her immunosuppressant drugs or alter her cell markers. And that's how Captain Marvel bleeds blue.
A big thank you to the heroes who made this possible. Deb Johnson, Carolyn Mackman, Nina Hatami, and our awesome professors Dr. Mohamed Noor and Eric Spana. Our TAs Megan Elise and Elise Ribbons, as well as our favorite Star Trek celebrity Garrett Wong. And me, the very smart class mascot, Keely Jordan.
Coming this March in theaters in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay, so to do the live long and prosper, you separate your fingers like a V and your thumb comes out. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good enough. Yeah. I'll just do it your way.